We're in Thailand with Global Blockchain Show, and today I'm with Rob from PitchBook. Rob, welcome.
Hello, Mia. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on. Tell me how you see the current scene here in DEF CON. I feel like you've been looking at the industry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The current year has been almost like a build-up, right? And then with the elections and everything happening now, everything's up. Everyone is, including people's moods.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the excitement is very, very high. I think no one really knew what to expect with the outcome for the election. So I think with a pro crypto administration coming in next year, I think folks think that the regulatory environment in the U.S. is going to get better, and it's so crazy, right? Because like you think about crypto, it's like we are doing our own thing. We don't give a shit about the government, and then really you think about how many folks in crypto are paying attention to U.S. elections, which is kind of wild. But yeah, the energy is definitely there. Everyone's super stoked about the outcome of the elections. I think being an analyst at PitchBook, we have more of a pragmatic view. We are trying to be as objective as possible, and we actually published a piece about the impact of the elections on crypto earlier this year, like 2 months ago. And the take was that it's not going to change much, to be honest. I just don't think so. If you understand how laws and regulations, how laws are passed and how regulations are done in the U.S. is very, very slow. And even with a full Republican Congress and administration in the executive office, they still has to get bipartisan support to pass anything, because you have to understand how things get passed in the Senate. Mm-hmm. And the Senate has to be a 60-40 vote. Not even so. Right now, the majority is going to be, I think, 52, 53 to 40, 48, 47. Doesn't matter. It has to be a 60-40 vote. So no matter what, unless there's 60 Republicans in the Senate, you have to get bipartisan support in any bill that you want to pass. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, and how slow things move, it's not like all of a sudden like things are going to get better. And another caveat is that Gary Gensler, who's like the enemy of crypto, his term doesn't end until 2026. The president doesn't really have a strong pathway to fire Gary Gensler on day one. He said that he's going to fire Gary Gensler on day one. He probably can't. He will have to work with Gary Gensler at least for a few months and can fire him for incompetence, but he'll have to have very strong evidence of incompetence. And that, there's court cases that goes back decades ago that, the president can't just go in and fire the head of independent federal agencies. And so I don't think a lot of folks in crypto understand the nuance of how, laws and regulations like that work in the U.S. So that's why our take when we published this piece 2 months ago, we said, there's not much is going to change. What we've seen is a great sentiment change, but it's not going to match what you're going to see in policy next year or the year after.
Interesting. So no changes in regulation anytime soon?
Definitely not. I think right now in the U.S. there are 2 bills that did pass on a bipartisan support out of the House, right? And it's the FIT21 bill, which is a more comprehensive crypto bill. Mm-hmm. Touches on a bunch of different aspects, but the main thing it touches on is who really regulates crypto between the CFTC and the SEC. That's like kind of the main component of that bill. And then there's a stablecoins bill as well. So I think that's going to be prioritized in the next congressional session, which starts in January. But then it still has to pass the Senate. Yeah. See, and then the Senate, like I said, is 60-40. So you have to get bipartisan support. And the good thing is it has gotten bipartisan support in the House. So usually that's a good barometer that it will get bipartisan support in the Senate. So at the very least, we would probably see in the next congressional session some kind of stablecoin regulation. So I think that's going to be great for the industry. And so that's probably the most low-hanging fruit. But everything else, expect a slow crawl on what's going to happen.
I could imagine like if Kamala won, it would have been even slower, no?
Possibly. I think our take before the elections, it didn't matter who won because Trump, he vocalized that he was pro-crypto. Obviously, Trump is a great he's great at politics, so he knew when to get into crypto at the right time. Like, well, like you can go as late as early 23. He said Bitcoin's a scam. So whether he believes crypto is a great thing or not, he's just a great political person. So he picked the right side. But with Kamala Harris, she's from San Francisco. So, she's close friends with like Sheryl Sandberg. So she's very pro tech. So it's really hard to see that her being as anti crypto as Biden was. But she never vocally took a side. She didn't have a stance. But, my inkling was that she was leaning more towards pro crypto than, the Biden administration. But either way, I think, Trump made the right political move to come out and say, "Hey, like I'm pro crypto," and obviously got the whole industry behind him.
Of course, having like Elon Musk on his side also helped on that end. What do
Yeah.
you think is going to happen like next year? So what is Trump able to do within the next year, and do you think he's going to do it?
I don't know. I think having just saying that you're pro crypto, it just depends on who he puts in the administration, right? I think folks like JD Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy, like these folks are pro crypto as well. So I think the ability to have talk policy and get if it's I don't actually know the House race. Did you look? Can I check real quick?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's settled yet. Let's just find out right now because I think they're still counting. It's very close. House race. Yeah, see, so still not. You need to get to 18 to get the majority. So right now it's still not settled yet. And this is what 2 weeks later, or whatever, 10 days later.
Yeah.
So whoever gets to 218 will have the House. But it looks like at this point, the Republicans will probably win because they only need 2 more seats to get the majority. So if they get those 2 seats, then I think there will be a lot more conversations about what crypto regulations could look like. But
Okay.
the thing is, the conversation doesn't matter because could you pass law? And that's the
Right.
challenge. So I think there's just gonna be more conversations. So I think that's good. I think the crypto industry has learned over the past 2 years that you have to have conversations with lawmakers and with regulators, no matter what. You can't just go do your own thing in the corner and expect a laissez-faire approach to crypto from the lawmakers and the regulators. I think at this point we know that crypto is here to stay, and it's a very important industry. And so, I think having hopefully with the Trump administration, with the right people in place, more of these conversations will happen, and that would be the impetus to hopefully somewhere down the line, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, that they'll end up being real regulations in the U.S.
Interesting. So while you're doing research, what's something recent that you found that is actually really interesting to you?
Yeah, so just for the listeners, just to understand what we do here at PitchBook. You're not familiar with PitchBook, where I'm not here to like
No, go
yeah.
ahead. It's
But
good.
yeah, for those who don't know, we're a financial data provider. We provide mostly private market data. We also have public market data, but that you can get like everywhere, like Bloomberg and Yahoo and all that. But our bread and butter that we have that's super unique is private market data. So private equity, venture capital, and all that. And so what I do at PitchBook is I use a lot of that data to drive our research, and we do deep market thematic research into specific technology areas. And so we have a team of about 14, 15 analysts, everyone covering a specific vertical. So we have a mobility tech analyst, we have a healthcare team, and they have 3 analysts on the healthcare team, and we have an AI analyst and all that. So I was a fintech analyst for the longest time, and we expanded. I moved into crypto. And so I do a lot of deep research in different areas that I find interesting. I just did one on decentralized AI. We had we were on a panel together yesterday that you moderated. Thank you for that on decentralized AI. So spend a lot of time nowadays just to see, what is real, or what will become vaporware in this space. And it's still a little bit early to tell, but it does feel, and generally crypto, I think you can see this over the last 5, 8 years. There's a lot of vaporware in crypto. Things sounds really exciting and it goes away, but I think that's just the product of of innovation, right? People try things, they put a lot of money into it, and they're like, hey, the market doesn't want it, or it's like not technologically feasible. But for us, yeah, decentralized AI is one area that I spent a lot of time in the last few months. We just published a research called um, crypto as an incentive for decentralized AI, and there's a lot of it, like using crypto as an incentive mechanism for open source AI, either like model development, decentralized inference, or fine tuning and all that. So I think that's a really interesting area. Like I said yesterday, it's still very early. And then stable coins, I think, is a very interesting areas as well. Um, um, Obviously one of the biggest use cases for crypto that we've seen, and with the regulations possibly coming and laws coming to the space in the US, I think stablecoins is a super exciting area. And we also saw Stripe just acquired Bridge, which is that stablecoin issuing
It's
platform,
huge.
for
Yeah.
$1.1 billion. I believe that's the largest M&A in the crypto space. And maybe if you don't include miners, I think there's some larger mining companies that got acquired in the past, but $1.1 billion is very
It's
sizable.
very
And
significant.
for a
Yeah.
very early stage company too, like their Bridge is like 2 or 3 years old. And
Yeah.
so it really tells you that Web2 or fintech or traditional finance, how big of an opportunity they see stablecoins are. And Visa just announced a stablecoin issuing platform, so they'll let banks issue stablecoins through this platform called VTAP. So Visa just announced that a month ago, and everything that the asset managers are doing as well too. BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity was reported to be launching their own tokenized money market fund. So I view tokenized money market funds as comparable to stablecoins. Because you think about what Circle and Tether does is they take fiat and they go buy treasuries in the back end, and that's what money markets do as well, right? They just hold treasuries mostly. And right now, so Franklin Templeton's a good case is that they have their tokenized money market fund built on Stellar and was it Polygon? Yeah, I believe it's Polygon. So it's built on public blockchains, and it has a associated token to it. And right now it has no utility, but because it's built on these public blockchains, Franklin Templeton can just unlock utility, and it'll look exactly like a stablecoin. You can take it and lock in DeFi protocols, or you can use it and send it. So they actually unlock peer-to-peer transfers of that token. That's the first use case they've done so far, and I'm sure down the line, as regulations become more clear, you'll be able to take a Franklin Templeton token and then use it just the same way you use USDC or USDT.
That's quite the scene. It would be interesting to see all of this playing out. I think, what do you think of Athena, for example?
I haven't spent enough in that ecosystem, so I can't speak deeply about it. But the returns that you get for it, it's always it raises a red flag for me.
Okay.
20%, 25%, I forgot what it is. But it's the same thing with Luna and Anchor, right? It's like 20% returns. Like, just fundamentally, if you study finance, like anything that generates that return and is not being used to like build a business, but it's like a financial return, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So that is my high level hot take on Athena without really understanding the mechanics, because they're not taking that money that's locked in that protocol to go fund and build real world businesses. So like that's the only way you can get 20%, 25% returns, right? Like Amazon, they grew at a 20-25% rate for like 15 years because they're a real business. But to take your money and put it into a bank and get 20-25% interest rate on it for over a long period of time, like it doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable. And obviously we saw that already in the past. And so it's something that I would caution for sure, because it doesn't make sense.
Okay, and thoughts on WorldCoin? It's a very polarizing company. Obviously brings in the mix of identity and AI and all the things we talked about on the panel as well.
Yeah.
I love asking this question because this is almost like asking who you're voting for in the US. It really reveals what people think about AI and just like in general, like how they perceive if something is decentralized or not, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, as an industry analyst, I try to be as objective as possible. Obviously, everyone has their biases. Um, I think WorldCoin is very controversial, especially because who's at the helm, right? You have Sam Altman on one hand is building this black hole of centralization, right? With OpenAI, and then you have on this other hand, he's like, you know what, we need a counterbalance to this black hole that's on my left hand, to with WorldCoin. This is going to be decentralized and be able to provide, money to all these people, like distribute, centralize all the stuff that we had over this side, make it more fair on this side. So it's hard to trust, and but I don't know if what WorldCoin is doing right now really, like they're collecting all these eyeballs and they're getting everyone's identities, but like what's the main purpose of that right
Their
now?
goal is to grow the users as much as possible, so have the biggest user base in the world. And
But what
then,
are the users using?
well, when you have you opened the app?
I actually I did have
Yeah.
I do have my eyeball scanned.
I haven't actually.
I went to
I might do it, but
yeah.
I'm interested in the whole dynamic and how it's playing out. I'm more interested in the business than actually, this seems like a huge decision of like scanning your eyeball. It's like, it's really not that, it's not that big of a deal, but
Yeah.
but because people have made a big deal out of it, then you start like overthinking it. Honestly, also lack of opportunity, to be honest. But back to what they're doing. They're trying to get as many users as possible.
Yeah.
And then once they have all the users, think like layer one. If a layer one like has the most users possible, everyone's going to go there and build there. So their approach is similar to that, or like say like Telegram, like building
Yeah.
mini apps on Telegram because the users are already there.
Yeah.
That's how they're seeing it. I think it could work. The only thing I think will work strongly against them is government. Like, I think it's very easy to just block.
Yeah, and it's already happened, right? I think in Kenya and in some other countries, the government came out and didn't allow them to do that. So yeah, definitely, I think regulatory risk is always a thing. I mean, yeah, I think one of the use cases that they mention is, and we talked about this yesterday, or I mentioned this yesterday in the panel, is when you're interacting online with anyone, you're not going to know in the near distant future whether you're interacting with a human being or you're interacting with an AI agent, right? So I think having that WorldCoin identity, you can know for sure that you're interacting with a human based on that.
Yeah, that's
they
a
can
good
verify
one.
that profile, and so. But then also, what I said is like, do you need to build this super expensive orb with like crazy privacy tech in it? It's very expensive, and to scan eyeballs, is that the best? Is that like the way to do it? Is that the best method, or could you just use Apple's technology of face scanning and just scan someone's face, and you can do it that way as well too? And I think that's a more cheaper option to build identity technology than having to build this orb that WorldCoin's doing. Well, they have a shitload of money, so maybe like they're like, why not? But
I don't think Altman would go for the cheap approach.
no,
He's just like
yeah.
trying to do the thing like the best way for him, for the company, like possible.
Yeah. And, apparently it's like super secure. I listened to one of the founders of WorldCoin on a podcast talking about like how,
Is
how
it
they,
Alex?
I think so. Yeah.
Alex Pania.
Yeah. He talks about how they secure the identity through the orb so no one can hack it and access that, but, the Apple, your face that's stored on the Apple phone is super secure as well too, so, but they spent a lot of time building out that orb. But definitely, I think there's a lot of use cases for having a digital identity online. But, WorldCoin hasn't done anything so far besides, paying people to scan eyeballs.
Yeah, I guess they're
Paying
playing
people in tokens.
They're playing the long game. They play a lot. They pay a lot of tokens, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm a U.S. citizen, and it's the funny thing. I scanned my eyeballs, and I didn't get any tokens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because as a U.S. citizen, they can't give me tokens.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have my eyeball scanned. I went to the World Trade Center, like the they had a mall, like at the mall, and they had a store that had an orb. I walked by, I saw, I was like, no shit, I'm gonna go scan my eyeballs. I scanned it, like I have a wallet and I don't have any tokens.
Oh, damn, that's not good.
Yeah.
I hear that in so I'm now spending more time in Singapore, and I hear like if I do it there, it might be a good pay
Yeah.
for scanning my eye. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really strange because if they price it differently depending on your citizenship or your country or like your residence, people might start gamifying that in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Have you thought about doing it, like getting an eyeball scan and just see what the process is like?
I might, just because I'm curious about the tech and how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And anything social, it's good to be early. You want to be there before the masses come.
Yeah.
Just in general. Although, like, if they have volume, but they don't have quality on WorldCoin.
Yeah.
So the volume is mainly coming from, these countries where it was easy for them to just like pay them to scan their eyes. But I imagine that if there's like a wave of, people adopting it, it's hard to get a wave because you need to scan. So you can't just get a bunch of people like downloading the app and doing something, because there's a process to it. So they can't have like a huge surge like in a day, let's say. But if that was to happen, like if something like that was to happen, that would be really interesting. I think maybe that will happen with some of the apps inside of it. But this process now, it's sort of like slow. It's like they're trying to get everyone in a room, let's say, like in a group chat, and then these apps sort of like drop there and they tell people to go. But once they have you there, they can send you any notification. They can say anything. They can do anything beyond these apps. They, the alerts they send to your phone, or like any sort of usability around reaching people, they will have access to that, which is really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a lot of folks in crypto that care about like government surveillance and privacy, and like that's what they don't. I think a lot of people don't get the eyeball scan because they don't want like an entity to have that, or don't do genetic testing with 21andMe because they don't want people to have that. I think I'm more like the lazy consumer, and I just try everything. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, everyone already knows everything about me anyway. So I'm like, okay, I'll go scan my eyeballs here. I'll do my genetic testing here. So I mean, I have Clear as well, and they have my eyeballs. So I think for me, I care less about people having my.
It's usually the concern is around someone taking too much interest in your life, specifically for whatever reason, and being able. So imagine like anyone being able to go online and look up your name and then finding your address and actually showing up at your door. That's the extreme of it.
Yeah.
But digitally, that could happen also. And so I think people try to. It's hard for the standard person to understand where to put the limit. Yeah. Because you don't know what you will become if you're working towards being a more public person. There's obviously concerns with that. Let's say you want, like a music artist doesn't want the fans to show up at their door. This is the standard view. But there's also like the guy that gets extremely wealthy doesn't want anyone to know like where his family is or anything like that,
or have his eyeballs and could use that for nefarious purposes. You're right. Yeah, maybe
information can be used against you.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. And I think me being the lazy consumer, I don't think that far.
Yeah, I know.
But you're right. I mean, it's a really good point. Like, you can become a public figure in 10 years, and then now like your genetics is everywhere, and your biometrics is all over the world, and like it could come back and hurt you. But I think it's the same thing with in crypto, you see a lot of folks are trying to build like a social media app that you pay for, right? And there's no advertisements and all that, but people want things that are free and easy to access, and that's why Facebook and Instagram and TikTok is still so popular, right?
Absolutely.
And so even though they're like collecting all your data and learning so much about you and feeding you ads and all that, but I think most people are lazy like me.
I agree with you. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
They can find me. I I have an anonymous Twitter, so I don't want to like out myself, but
Okay, LinkedIn or something.
LinkedIn is a
Okay.
good one. Yeah, you can find me. Just search Robert Lay, it's LE, and I just put PitchBook on, and then I'll should show up the first profile.
Robert, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for having me.